So I'm going to go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Martinez. I am the NOAA Coastal Management Fellow at the State Coastal Conservancy, and I am going to be the program manager going forward for the Community Wetlands Restoration Grant Program. I'm going to go ahead and let my colleague announce or introduce herself.
Morning, everyone. My name is Sally G. I'm a project development analyst with the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy. I'm located in Los Angeles, and I'll be helping Megan out today. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much. So today we will be going, in today's webinar, we'll be providing an overview of the Community Wetlands Restoration Grant Program. That is a mouthful, so we're going to just shorten that to CWRGP for the acronym. We're going to be going over the background of the program, the grant round details for the year of 2022. We're also going to cover application guidelines, as well as the template, as well as selection criteria. So really quickly, just to start off, we're going to cover some general housekeeping. Please feel free to input questions in the chat box. We will be addressing these questions regarding the application or anything else that you might have questions about after the presentation in a Q&A format. The webinar will be, as I mentioned, recorded and put on our website. And before we begin, we are going to launch a quick poll just to get a sense about the knowledge of the program and general awareness. Kellen, would you mind launching that? Give you a few minutes to answer these. All right, it looks like almost there. We're getting towards everyone participating. Okay, I think we can go ahead and end the poll, Kellen. Can we share results?
You should be sharing.
Oh, great. Awesome. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, it looks like there are quite out of those that are attending, many have not heard of the program or applied for it out of the small sample size that we have currently, which is good news because this is kind of helps us with outreach going forward. And we're glad to have those that were not previously aware of the program before, as well as those that haven't applied before. So happy to have you. And also those that have, also happy to have you as well. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. All right, so I'm going to give a quick introduction to what the Wetland Recovery Project is. So the Southern California Wetlands Recovery Project, or the WRP for short, is a partnership of 18 state and federal agencies that are chaired by the California Natural Resources Agency and supported by the California State Coastal Conservancy. Through the WRP partnership, public agencies, scientists, as well as local communities work cooperatively to support and facilitate acquisition, enhancement, and restoration of wetlands in Southern California. The geographic extent of the Wetlands Recovery Project region lies between Point Conception, California, and the Santa Barbara subregion, all the way down to the US-Mexico border. Each coastal wetland is indicated by a red dot, and the non-tidal wetlands are shown as individual blue dots, kind of thus creating a network across the region. The CWRGP program is under the Southern California WRP that is focused on community-based preservation as well as restoration projects. Thank you. The 2018 WRP Regional Strategy is a report and document that articulates long-term goals and specific implementation strategies that helps guide wetland restoration for the WRP. And this will be a document that's going to be used over the course of the next few decades to help improve wetland resiliency and to climate change, as well as other stressors, as well as quantitative objectives that were developed that could be used to track success over time. This project supports achieving goals 1 through 3 of the regional strategy by restoring coastal wetlands, streams, adjacent habitats, and other non-tidal wetlands. This program has a specific emphasis on objective 1 of goal 3, which is to support community-based restoration projects. Since 2001, the CWRGP has provided over $4 million in funding to over 170 community-based restoration projects in coastal wetlands, as well as along coastal stream corridors in the Southern California region. Most recently, in the past few years, there was a pause in the request for proposals to undergo a programmatic evaluation process. During this time, we conducted a gap assessment in which we determined who funding has gone to in the past, who it hasn't, where those projects were located, and also solicited feedback from former grantees. In addition, we worked with program partners to re-envision the program with the overall goals of reaching a broader audience, funding wetland restoration projects that are rooted in and benefit underserved communities, and also improve support for capacity building. Historically, this program has been funded by various agencies and organizations. Going forward, the CWRGP will be administered by the State Coastal Conservancy and funded by the Coastal Conservancy, the Wildlife Conservation Board, as well as the San Gabriel and Lower Los Angeles Rivers and Mountains Conservancy. So the green flags indicated on this map highlight past CWRGP project locations, which span the extent of the South Coast region. And you can find more out about these projects on our website. The program priorities are going to be a total of 4. The first is to engage CWRGP priority communities to restore or enhance coastal wetlands and coastal stream corridors. These priority communities include, but are not limited to, lower income individuals and households, people with disabilities, Black, Indigenous people, and people of color or BIPOC, immigrant communities, as well as other historically marginalized communities. There are a number of tools that have been developed to help identify these priority communities, such as CalEnviroScreen, and I'm happy to put these links in afterwards, the California State Parks Community Fact Finder, as well as the California Department of Water Resources. These are all mapping tools that can help identify where these communities are present in Southern California. The second priority is to implement restoration projects that have a strong community benefits, such as community engagement, education, workforce development, career development, as well as leadership development. The third is to demonstrate community-led planning and implementation of habitat restoration projects that are anchored in community expertise. Examples of this could include including community leaders, community-based organizations, tribal members, local planners, as well as local and state government officials. And the fourth priority is to increase organizational capacity to plan and implement habitat restoration projects.
And I'll jump in to talk about the Community Wetland Restoration Grant Program 2022 cycle. So approximately $350,000 will be available for this grant round. It is anticipated that 4 to 6 projects will be selected this round, ranging from $30,000 to a maximum of $100,000. However, more projects may be selected dependent on application requests. So the eligible applicants for this program are 501c3 nonprofit organizations, local government agencies such as cities or county entities, federally recognized tribes, and then nonprofit or public universities. Eligible projects are those that will restore or preserve coastal wetlands as their primary goal, or a coastal stream corridor or other non-tidal wetlands within the region of the WRP. So these projects must also involve community and restoration implementation, as well as have an educational component. So the duration of the project is for a maximum of 3 years. All projects must start by the winter of 2022 and must be completed by December of 2025. In previous grant rounds, we do have some examples up on the website about projects that have been previously funded. These projects included various activities such as installing native plants, removing non-native vegetation, seeding and propagation of plants, trash abatement, establishment of educational kiosks, as well as inviting students, family, and community members to participate in habitat restoration events and educational field trips where they can learn about wetland conservation, indigenous significance to the land, wildlife out there, vegetation, water quality, and monitoring techniques. These projects can also include professional development workshops for teachers to learn about wetland ecology, stormwater runoff, and about watersheds as well. These projects examples and project types and activities are also provided in the application guidelines that are posted online. However, this list is not fully inclusive. Other considerations for the grant program are that the State Coastal Conservancy will award no more than one CWRGP grant per applicant. Projects proposed for transitional upland habitat must demonstrate a clear connection and benefit to the adjacent wetland habitat. And if the applicant is not the landowner of the project site, the applicant will need to provide evidence of landowner approval prior to project implementation. Grant recipients will also be required to enter into up to 15 to 20-year grant agreements to ensure long-term protection of the project site. This is to ensure that restored property is operated, used, and maintained for the project purpose for up to 15 to 20 years. The CWRGP grant program cannot fund solely experimental or research projects, solely construction projects, or solely recreational activities, or ongoing monitoring and maintenance projects unless they are tied specifically to a restoration project where monitoring is necessary to ensure the success of the project. And this monitoring must be completed within the duration of the project, which is maximum of 3 years. In terms of our selection criteria for the program, they're based on the following, which are the extent to which the project will restore coastal wetlands, streams, adjacent habitats, and other non-tidal wetlands, the extent to which the project will advance hands-on community involvement in a wetland restoration project, particularly involvement beyond the traditionally engaged environmental groups, the degree to which the project will help build the applicant's capacity to plan and implement restoration projects, the extent to which the project will foster education about wetland ecosystems and the impacts and threats to those ecosystems, the extent to which the project demonstrates broader community interest and involvement and support, and the applicant's experience and capacity to implement the project and provide required long-term protection agreements.
Great, thank you, Sally. Last part of the presentation will be focused on the process. So if you are interested in applying for this grant cycle, there are a few important dates to remember. Applications are due May 16th of this year by 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Application review will be conducted between the time that the applications are submitted to July of 22, in which we will review and select the projects. And a provisional notification of either award or denial will be given to those that have been that have applied. By September of 22, the selected projects will be presented to the State Coastal Conservancy Board for funding approval. And the Coastal Conservancy will enter into agreements, grant agreements, and develop work programs with successful applicants by the fall of 2022. And funding will become available no later than December of this year. So the grant application guidelines are, as well as a template, are meant to provide more detailed information and also complement the application template. Both of these documents can be downloaded from the CWRGP webpage, which are going to be shown here. On the top is going to be the website link and then the URL, and then the arrows are pointing to where exactly you can download those on the page. And I'm happy again to provide these links at the end of the presentation. So a complete proposal will contain the following 4 sections. The first will be the application cover page. The second will be the project narrative, which is a maximum of 6 pages. The third will be the project budget. And the fourth will be the additional attachments. We're going to spend a little bit of time going over each of these sections in more detail. So the basic information, so the application cover page will cover the basic information about the main project contact information, a summary of the project, as well as information about the location of the project. The second section, which is going to be focused on the project narrative, again, a maximum of 6 pages, will be focusing on a total of 12 questions to include the need for the project, the CWRGP priorities, project description, the CWRGP priority communities that will be engaged in the project, site description, project readiness, CEQA status, permits, specific tasks that will be achieved by the project, as well as those how the success will be measured, partnerships and collaboration, as well as applicant experience, as well as and capacity. The third section will be the project budget. So the project budget can support a range of activities. We do suggest that modifying tasks to fit the project as appropriate, and please, add or feel free to add or remove rows as necessary when developing the budget. And I also like to mention that organizational capacity, workforce development, as well as project planning and development activities must not be more than 50% of the total funding amount requested for the WRP, and must be related, again, to wetland restoration project activities. They cannot be funded solely as is. And the final section will be the attachments. So these will be additional documents or photos, also including regional and site scale maps that shows the location of the project elements, and also as project photos that give more detail to where the location is and what the project site looks like. In addition, nonprofit applicants should include the following with their applications. They should include letter of determination from the IRS, including for 501c3 status, as well as completed nonprofit organization pre-award questionnaires. Those that have submitted in the past 2 years will not need to resubmit these. So in terms of application procedures, electronic submissions must be received again by 5 p.m. on May 16th using the apply button shown down at the bottom of the page. All files should be uploaded as a single file, either Microsoft Word or PDF. It should be named adequately, and files should not be excessively large. And if electronic submission is not possible, hard copy applications can be sent to myself and addressed to me, Megan Martinez at the Coastal Conservancy, and must be postmarked by that date as well, May 16th. As I mentioned before, I will be the primary contact for this program and any questions going forward. And the CWRGP website does have an abundance of additional information, as well as a project board, which shows past information about past projects, and those are available online. So it looks like we have about a little more than an hour left for questions. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. And we are happy to jump in and answer any here now. Thank you so much. Also, please feel free to raise your virtual hand if you would like to just ask a question outright. Okay, I'm looking through our participants. I don't see any hands raised. Are there any questions? The Q&A. Doesn't look like it.
I see one question in the chat. Megan, I can read it. What flexibility is there with community involvement if COVID numbers become dangerously high again?
That is a great question. Sorry, it says anonymous and attendee, so I don't know who asked, but that is a great question. So this obviously did impact our previous grant round in the past few years. So in that instance, we were very flexible in the fact that we had, many projects either stalled completely or, or even just very minimized in terms of engagement and who could be out in the field helping or be allowed on certain grounds for, whether it was a university, for example, or whatever the setting may be. So there is definitely going to be flexibility going forward if COVID becomes spikes again, and we need to kind of deal with that as we come across it. So.
And I'll just add to that, in addition to, I think, having some flexibility with project timelines shifting, if activities need to shift to more virtual things that were planned to be in person, that can be a possibility as well. And do you want me to read the other question in the chat, the next one?
Sure. Yes, I was trying to catch up myself. Sorry.
Yeah. How does the fact, oh, sorry, they're moving too. How does the fact of having received a previous grant from this program affect selection criteria positively or negatively?
That is a great question. We are not going to, be obviously biased against any projects that have been previously funded through this program. Of course, we are going to be fair in our selection criteria, and as long as all the projects are consistently meeting those, those are going to be what essentially is going to determine whether the projects are first and foremost eligible for the program, as well as going to be selected. So it all depends on who is applying, of course, and how many applications we receive. So I can't really say, in a sense, of course, if you have applied before, you might have a better sense of the procedure, kind of, what we're expecting perhaps. So that could be an advantage, definitely. But we're going to be ranking these projects in a way that's going to give everyone a fair chance.
And I should have mentioned, I'm Katie Nichols with the State Coastal Conservancy. I'm the coordinator of the Southern California Wetlands Recovery Project. We have some other panelists online just to help field questions. So the next question is, thanks for your mention of upland transitional habitat. Would transitional habitat adjacent to a critical stream be a less compelling project than straight ahead wetland creek habitat restoration?
Great question, Haley, I'm sorry. So that transitional upland habitat, as long as it is adjacent to a wetland, and there's a clear connection made between the two types of habitat types, it would definitely still be eligible for the program, and not in any sense less compelling than a direct connection to the wetland itself. So both are eligible and both have different merits, I believe. So I think they would be both considered equally ranked.
If that's working, I'll read the next one from Melanie. Does the proposed geography for wetland restoration need to be on the SCWRP project list already, or is there connection to that list? How do we check that list? So on our website, we have projects that are on the Southern California Wetlands Recovery Project work plan, and projects that we've funded in the past through this grant program. And that's just examples of projects. So there isn't an existing list, but the geography would need to be within the Southern California region, if that answers the question. But there isn't a list of specific geographies other than just being within that SCWRP region that Megan showed in the beginning of the presentation.
Megan, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say that it looks like we've answered all the questions in the chat thus far, and I don't see any hands raised. So, but I would like to give maybe a minute or two longer to allow any others that might have questions to put it in the chat or speak. Oh, we can't raise our hands. Apologies for that. I'm wondering if there's a way to make that happen. And if not, then sorry, I will definitely allow some more time to kind of think about any questions you may have and have time to actually type them out.
I just found the setting, so people can raise their hands now if they want to.
Thank you, Kellen. I appreciate the technical help on the fly. All right, well, I guess if there aren't any other questions, just please, just want to let you know that I am available for questions, whether, and also consultations after this in the next few weeks prior to the deadline of May 16th. So please feel free to reach out if you have any more specific questions or if you would like to know more and how, maybe your project fits into this program. And thank you all for attending and looking forward to future conversation.